Hello, welcome to another weekly movie review for Movie Club Strikes Back. This week's pick was Singin' in the Rain. And this was a great pick because it's one of my favorite old-time films starring one of my favorite actors, Gene Kelly. Now, this story was set in the 1930s and takes place when Hollywood was transitioning from the silent film era into the early talkies, and concerns largely a couple of actors who have to make the transition from being silent movie stars to talking movie stars. And you really get a feel for some of the old-time Hollywood glamour and spectacle that you associate with that era. Now, this movie did follow a lot of real-life Hollywood stories in that a lot of the Hollywood silent movie stars couldn't make the transition to the talkies because their voice and performance just didn't match up with public perception. And they kind of pin the nose on it when you've got this very glamorous lady speaking in kind of this whiny New Jersey accent. And that was real to life. That happened. A lot of silent movie stars kind of faded away because they couldn't make the transition. I find it really interesting that this movie is a perfect example of why those silent movie stars faded away, because it is very much the Hollywood bright colors, music, songs that those silent movie stars couldn't have been able to perform in. And it's just that iconic type of film that replaced the silent films. So it's really kind of fitting that it tells that story. Now, one of the best things about this movie is just Gene Kelly. He was a Hollywood icon for singing and dancing, and this film showcases a lot of his best performances. And a lot of people make the comparison between him and Fred Astaire, and they were contemporaries, but for me, I always favored Gene Kelly. Now, a lot of the song and dance routines in this film are almost Hollywood legends in and of themselves, from the Make 'em Laugh song to Good Morning, and of course the very famous Singin' in the Rain routine by Gene Kelly, where he's singing and dancing in the rain. But you watch that again and again, and it's just this fun scene to watch. The music's great, the dancing's great, and you understand why this scene in and of itself has remained fixed in Hollywood memory for so many years. And while everybody talks about that iconic scene of Gene Kelly singing and dancing in the rain, there's one scene I'd like to focus on in particular, and that is the couple of dance routines Gene Kelly had with Sid Charisse. And she had been a dancer before, but this was kind of her first mainline experience as being a lead dancer. And it led to her getting her next role, which is in The Bandwagon with Fred Astaire. And that's a particularly good flick if you haven't seen that one and you like this one. So put that one on your DVD queue. While you can sing the praises of this movie for hours on end, it wouldn't be fair to mention at least the one flaw I found, which is that this movie can feel a little disconnected at times. Sometimes from going from scene to scene, in particular the music routines, it feels a little disjointed. And I think the problem with that is the fact that they wrote the songs first and then crafted a plot around it, which is kind of backwards in my way of thinking. And you get that feel of it when you kind of jump into a song that doesn't really feel like it connected with the scene that immediately preceded or immediately followed. But that's almost kind of a nitpicking because the movie's just entertaining to watch, and it's not necessarily a straight narrative as most musicals aren't. But it's really only a minor flaw, and it's only going to stick out to you if you get nitpicky about that sort of thing, which I unfortunately do from time to time. But it's never hampered my enjoyment of the film. But even if they did write the songs first, it's easy to see why they did it that way, because the songs are just iconic and memorable. I mean, I challenge anyone to deny that they didn't whistle along the Singin' in the Rain tune at the end of this film, just because it's kind of catchy and it sticks in your memory. So even though it's a backwards way of doing things, I think it works. And it obviously achieved what they needed it to achieve, because this was a very successful movie and it is stuck in our consciousness for a long time. So Singin' in the Rain is not just a good to watch or a well worth the price of admission type movie. It's practically a must-see, particularly if you're a fan of Hollywood in general, or the musical in particular, all the singing and dancing routines. If you're a big fan of those, you got to watch this film, because a lot of others are based on this one. Now, I'm not going to recommend that you watch this film if you haven't seen it. I'm going to insist on it because it is a Hollywood legend, and you're not going to have a full cinematic education unless you see this one. Go ahead and see what everybody else had to say about this film at #MovieClubStrikesBack. Leave your comments below if you so choose, and click subscribe if you want to see more from me. And until next time, keep doing what you do.